3 days ago, Atlas, an interstellar enigma we've been monitoring closely, split apart, and what unfolded wasn't the kind of accidental fragmentation we'd associate with a comet breaking up in deep space. Instead, we witnessed a deliberate separation, one that has completely altered Earth's threat analysis. Worldwide tracking networks detected the division roughly 36 hours ago. Atlas, the baffling object that has been defying our understanding of physics since the moment it entered our instrument's view, suddenly broke into two separate bodies. Each of these new components is about half the scale of the original, roughly 400 meters wide, and each fragment immediately began steering on its own toward Earth, each on a different course. What has sent shockwaves through the scientific community is that this wasn't natural at all. When space objects naturally fracture, their debris fans out chaotically, scattering in unpredictable vectors at various speeds. But Atlas didn't do that. It split perfectly into two evenly sized halves that almost instantly started making their own individual trajectory adjustments. Within mere hours of the separation, both pieces displayed propulsion-driven movements. We are not witnessing a comet crumbling. We are watching a technological craft intentionally divide into two fully functional vehicles, both capable of self-guided navigation and mission execution, and both now aiming for Earth on synchronized but different paths. Before diving into the meaning of this operation and why two objects arriving together is strategically disturbing, make sure you subscribe and leave a like, because this situation has evolved into a dual-object crisis that must be monitored continuously. The question is no longer whether Atlas could split. We saw it. The real questions are, why did it divide, and what happens when both components reach Earth at nearly the same moment? Multiple observatories recorded the separation. Atlas began producing unusual electromagnetic pulses about 2 hours beforehand, signals distinct from anything previously detected. These were powerful internal bursts, seemingly activating structural separation mechanisms. One aerospace engineer described the event as unmistakably engineered. Everything we observed aligns with procedures used in designed spacecraft separations. Control division, where one machine becomes two independent craft. Energy pulses primed the structure, connection points disengaged, and the split occurred cleanly along what appears to be a purpose-built seam. This object was constructed with the intention to come apart. The separation lasted around 8 minutes. Atlas's two halves drifted apart slowly at first, maintaining parallel alignment. Afterward, small thruster bursts from each pushed them farther apart, while still preserving nearly identical flight paths. What's astonishing is that both fragments stayed fully functional. Each one immediately began producing its own electromagnetic emissions, demonstrating independent power systems. Both began adjusting their navigation paths, proving their autonomous control, and both displayed the same impossible abilities Atlas showcased before splitting: propulsion, maneuvering, scanning. A specialist in spacecraft systems highlighted the engineering marvel involved. Creating a craft that can divide into two operational units demands doubled power sources, redundant propulsion setups, independent flight systems, and structural designs that allow both halves to function post-division. This wasn't a random breakup. This was modular spacecraft engineering far beyond anything humanity has ever created. But the split revealed something else far more worrisome. Observatories noticed dozens of smaller objects emerging from the separation area, tiny bodies between 1 and 5 meters wide drifting outward. They aren't debris. They are clearly maneuvering on their own power, arranging themselves between the two main fragments as if forming a sensor or communication array. Multiple tracking stations have confirmed these miniature objects are actively repositioning, maintaining precise geometric spacing and constructing what appears to be a distributed network stretching thousands of kilometers. The moment Atlas chose to separate is also meaningful. It divided at a point where both fragments could efficiently continue toward Earth without requiring massive additional energy. Had it happened earlier or later, corrections would have been far more costly. The timing was optimal, another indicator of calculated intent. The alarming part, isn't only that we now have two objects inbound. It's how and from where they're approaching. Fragment A, slightly larger, is coming in from the prograde direction along the plane of Earth's orbit, approaching the daylight side with the sun behind it. Fragment B is arriving from above the ecliptic plane, dropping toward Earth's north polar region at a steep angle. An orbital mechanics analyst explained the implications. These aren't random trajectories. They're engineered approach vectors designed to reach Earth simultaneously from different directions, a classic strategy in military doctrine used to split defensive focus. Current projections indicate both will reach Earth within a 6-hour window, about 18 to 21 days from now. Fragment A will enter Earth's orbital distance first, with Fragment B arriving soon after from an entirely different direction. Both fragments continue making controlled thrust changes to maintain this carefully synchronized timeline. These dual approach vectors serve more than just timing. They allow for full observational coverage. Fragment A, arriving from the sun's side, will scan Earth's illuminated hemisphere. Fragment B, descending from above, will have line of sight to polar regions and a drastically different vantage point. Together, they will observe every region of Earth during approach, leaving no blind spots. Meanwhile, the micro-objects released during the split are positioning themselves like relay nodes along both paths, some ahead like scouts, others behind as communication links. A defense analyst remarked that the formation resembles military-grade mission planning. Main assets advance on multiple axes while support units handle surveillance, relays, and reconnaissance. If this formation belonged to a hostile nation, it would be instantly recognizable as a multi-vector approach. This raises a major question. Why did Atlas break into two pieces here? One hopeful explanation is redundancy, ensuring mission success even if one fragment is lost. Deep space missions often use redundant systems for high-risk environments. If this is exploration, two units increase survivability. Another theory is force multiplication. Two maneuvering objects are far more difficult to track and counter than one. Strategic complexity increases dramatically with dual threats from different vectors. A third theory proposes specialization. Perhaps each fragment has a unique role. One might be built for atmospheric study, while the other handles communications or orbital operations. Splitting allows simultaneous execution of separate tasks. But the timing hints at a darker possibility. The split was preparation for something specific at Earth. Atlas waited until the optimal moment, close enough to ensure arrival, far enough to test both halves before the final approach. Energy emissions have also intensified since the split. Each fragment now outputs stronger electromagnetic signatures than the intact object did. Both are operating near full power, implying the split activated additional systems rather than dividing resources. This development triggered global concern as agencies realized the situation now demands monitoring two advancing objects. Tracking networks had to instantly double their workload, overwhelming systems designed for single-object surveillance. Military commands began shifting satellites, restoring radars previously offline, and scrambling to maintain uninterrupted observation. Defensive planning became drastically more difficult. Missile defense systems are geared toward threats from specific directions. Now two incoming vectors require dividing already limited resources. A specialist noted that our defensive architecture assumes predictable threats, ballistic missiles or asteroids, not intelligent craft approaching from divergent angles. Diplomatic tensions have risen as nations debate strategy. Some want simultaneous communication attempts. Others argue for military readiness. Coordination is struggling under pressure, with disagreements over whether to treat the fragments separately or as components of one unified system. Meanwhile, as both fragments close in, their behavior becomes increasingly telling and unsettling. Each is actively scanning Earth. Fragment A appears focused on atmospheric composition and surface mapping, while Fragment B monitors human-made electromagnetic activity, radio, satellites, radar systems. A sensing specialist said the task division mirrors a coordinated reconnaissance mission. One studies the planet, the other studies its civilization. The micro-objects are equally active, sending data back to both fragments and maintaining a vast sensor web. Some position themselves to monitor both main fragments at once, perhaps supporting synchronization. Recent adjustments suggest the fragments are aiming for precise orbital positions. Fragment A over the Pacific, Fragment B near the Arctic. This would grant nearly total Earth coverage. Even more concerning, the fragments have begun synchronized bursts of electromagnetic activity every few hours, lasting exactly 11 to 17 minutes each time. These coordinated transmissions imply structured, shared operations. Their energy signatures continue climbing, indicating activation of additional systems or power buildup for major events upon arrival. Behind the scenes, defense planners are running simulation after simulation, and the results are grim. Direct interception looks nearly impossible. Interceptor craft require time to reach targets, and the fragments would easily detect and evade them. Nuclear options pose treaty violations and severe risks, and there's no guarantee of effectiveness. The largest dilemma: humanity doesn't know if these fragments are dangerous. Attacking them without cause could be a catastrophic first impression on a superior civilization. But allowing them unimpeded access could be equally dangerous. Some planners are preparing Earth-based defenses instead, hardening grids, securing satellites, positioning disaster response units. But the dual approach paths complicate preparations globally. With both fragments now under 3 weeks from arrival, developments continue accelerating. They're deploying more micro-objects, expanding their sensor network into three-dimensional space. Their dual countdown sequences, each calibrated to hit 0 at different arrival times, are nearly confirmed. Even more concerning, the 5 escort objects that shadowed Atlas for months are now shifting into what appears to be a protective perimeter around both fragments. In fewer than 21 days, humanity will face a situation without precedent. 2 alien origin craft arriving simultaneously from opposite sides of the planet. The range of possible outcomes is vast, from peaceful scientific observation to permanent surveillance to operations we cannot yet imagine. A strategist summarized the situation succinctly. 1 object was mysterious. 2 coordinated objects change everything. Their capabilities, planning, and timing imply intention. The complexity has doubled. The unknowns have multiplied, and our window to prepare is rapidly closing. Atlas divided. Both fragments are on final approach, and soon we will discover whether that split was a scientific safeguard, a tactical maneuver, or preparation for something beyond any human expectation.